Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's Gradcracker webinar, where we are delighted to be joined by INEOS. INEOS is a global manufacturer of petrochemicals, specialty chemicals and oil products, as well as encompassing consumer brands and sports interests. INEOS has been working with Gradcracker for 9 years, and today we're going to be hearing from a range of graduates about their experience with the company so far, as well as hearing from Caroline and the HR team about their recruitment process, who they are as a company, and some of their key initiatives. Right now, INEOS are recruiting for their commercial graduate scheme, and their engineering vacancies will also be going live very soon. On their company hub, you can get fantastic insight into their roles and their business. So make sure you head there after this webinar to apply, follow, and find out even more about them. Firstly, let's meet Caroline. So Caroline, could you give us an overview of your role at INEOS?
Yeah, of course, Sophie. Thanks for having us, first of all, and giving us the opportunity to talk to you all about INEOS, but also to hear from some of our graduates as well. So thank you. So I've been with INEOS, Sophie, for coming up to 4 years, and it's absolutely flown by, if that gives you a flavour for what it's like to work for INEOS. So with my team, we are responsible for recruiting graduates onto the European commercial programme. And also have the opportunity to meet all of the graduates globally, because we run the corporate event, which I'll talk to you a little bit more about later on.
Lovely, fantastic. Well, that sounds really exciting. So anybody that's applying to INEOS and goes through the recruitment process will end up talking to you at some point then, Caroline.
Very well indeed, Jess.
Excellent. So could you give us an overview about, I know I gave a really brief intro, but can you tell us a bit more about what INEOS actually does?
Yeah, I mean, Sophie, I think it was a very good intro, actually. Trying to summarize INEOS, we are probably the biggest company a lot of people have never heard of, and particularly when we're going around career fairs, it's quite remarkable, particularly within the engineering field, actually, how many people haven't yet heard of INEOS. So we are a global petrochemical manufacturer. We employ over 26,000 people, and it's growing all the time, and operates across 29 countries of just under 200 sites. And we generate about $65 billion annually. So huge organisation. We produce chemicals that will impact all of us on our day-to-day lives into various industries, so medical industry, energy. And from the energy perspective, we have a long-term investment plan in the future of Europe's hydrogen sector. So really, really varied in terms of what we do. As you mentioned, Sophie, earlier, we don't just look at chemicals. We like to see ourselves as not a typical chemical company. We do things a little bit differently. So complementing the core of the business, we have a great interest in sport, which a lot of people now are starting to hear about us from Formula One, from the cycling team, the Grenadiers, and we go into football teams as well. So quite different to the day-to-day.
Yeah.
We are also launching a car called the Grenadier, and the first one was off the production line this week, actually.
Oh, how exciting.
I know. And top it off as well, we've got one of our more, commercial consumer-facing businesses called INEOS Hygienics, which was during COVID times, producing hand sanitizer, gave it to the NHS, and now we are selling it to members of the public. So huge company, and always lots and lots going on, Sophie.
Yeah, no, fantastic. Thank you so much, Caroline. Like you said, it's very difficult to summarize INEOS in a couple of sentences or a couple of minutes. And I found it so fascinating working with INEOS for the last 9 years and seeing the expansion into all those different areas, the F1 and everything, and the hygienics. It's kind of all happened in the last in a very recent history, hasn't it, for INEOS? So it's exciting to see everything that's going to come as well. So in terms of for graduates then, what different opportunities do you offer for graduates looking to join the business?
So we have 2 schemes, Sophie. So we have an engineering programme, and we also have a commercial programme. So we've got graduates on both these programmes actually on the call today, so they can talk you through those in a little bit more detail.
Yeah.
I mean, would you like me to give a high level now in terms of the 2 schemes?
Very briefly, yeah, just kind of the key differences, because I know obviously for the commercial, you have commercial and engineering, but really you're looking for STEM graduates for both of those. So if you could just explain a little bit about the differences, that would be fabulous.
Yeah, of course. So I'll start with the engineering program. So they are recruited globally. We, I guess, just focusing on the UK, we've got Jensen on the call, who's one of our engineering graduates based in Grangemouth. And we also have a site in Runcorn where we recruit engineering graduates into. It's typically a 4 to 5 year program with chartership provided as well. And the intention is to give an opportunity to really kind of get a great understanding of INEOS, the business, but also the assets as well. So the intention is we move around where we can. So that's the engineering program. We also have the commercial program, Sophie, which is live on the Gradcracker website currently. And that is, as you say, we generally do recruit STEM subjects. So primarily engineers, lots of chemical engineers. But we really look for people that are very numerate as well. So people will be given an opportunity to spend time in 3 different businesses, 3 different countries. And we're looking for people that see that as a great opportunity, very mobile. And they rotate every 2 years into very different commercial functions, very different jobs as well. So you'll generally do quite an operational role, then maybe more of an analytical role. Really just to get you a good understanding of INEOS and a few of the businesses as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And we're going to hear from Camilla, Yuri and Sam about their experiences on the commercial scheme today and some of those rotations that you've mentioned. So thank you for that overview. So I know the INEOS graduate scheme, when you say it's 4 or 5 years or 5 years long, what makes the INEOS scheme different? Because it is really, really in depth and very different to anything else that we might see advertised on Gradcracker. Yeah.
What I would say, and I'm sure all of the graduates on the call will be able to give you a view as well, we don't have a massive big corporate function or structure. And with that, we are very agile. We make decisions very, very quickly, and we really do just get things done, being a privately owned company as well. So I would say kind of the numbers you hear of the turnover and the employees that work for us, it sounds all very big, but it is very flat. With that, our graduates are making big decisions and having quite significant impact on a day-to-day basis from day one. So our graduates are put into real jobs from day one. We don't have extra headcount with jobs we make up for graduates. They are put into real jobs immediately. So we're looking for people that see that as a great opportunity. One of our values, which I think is quite unusual, but you just see it throughout the organisation, is humour. We like to enjoy ourselves as well. We work very, very hard, but we work with very nice people, I would say. Johnson can talk you through the Namibia challenge, which I really do not think any other graduate program offers that as an opportunity. So I won't spoil Jenson's moment. It's very, very different.
Yeah. Fantastic. And it's not just the program itself that's different. I mean, the whole recruitment process and some of the things that we're going to hear about throughout this webinar just really does make INEOS stand out as an employer. And we're going to hear about some of that and come back to you towards the end, Caroline, to talk a bit more about the personalized approach that you take to recruitment throughout for the graduates as well. So thank you so much for that intro. We're going to head out and meet the rest of our panel today. So let's start by just kind of going around and asking everybody, what did you study and when did you join INEOS? So starting with you, Yuri. Yuri, are you there? You're on mute. You're on mute.
Yeah.
Yuri,
yeah. Okay, perfect. No, I was still on mute. Yeah.
So, okay.
No, my name is Yuri. I'm
fault.
from the Netherlands. I'm 24.
Okay.
That might be my fault. Apologize. I did put a quick
Oh, yeah. I pressed unmute and then someone muted me again. It's fine. I'm used to it. Yeah, it's a bit of a delay, I think. But no, I'm... Yeah. No, I'm 24. I came from the Netherlands. I studied in the Netherlands in Breda, and I studied international logistics engineering. And I started at INEOS 6.5 weeks ago.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Yuri. Moving on to you, Sam, can you let us know what you studied and where you went to, when to join INEOS and what you studied?
Sure. So I studied chemistry back at the University of Nottingham. I started in INEOS in April 2019, where I began my first placement with Styrolution, so a polystyrene business based out in Frankfurt. So it's nice to start my first rotation in Germany.
Yeah.
And now my second rotation started in September 2021, and that is now in our PVC business, Innovin, and that's based in London, doing a totally different role where I'm now product manager, whereas previously I was doing global strategy and sustainability.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you, Sam. We are going to come back to you, find out more about the sustainability element a little bit later on in the webinar. And I know Jess is going to talk to you about your kind of current role in a few moments. So coming over to you, Camilla, can you let us know what you studied and when you joined INEOS?
Yeah, so I'm German, so studied in Germany, in Bavaria, in the north of Munich. I have a bachelor and a master in international business administration, so not the typical STEM background from my side, but I have majors in supply chain and production management as well as procurement, so that is why the commercial scheme was a great fit for me. And I started in 2018, so it's already been over 4 years, in one of the German businesses in the north of Cologne.
And now you're based in London, aren't you, Camilla?
Now I'm in London, that's right.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And then finally, Jensen, can you let us know what you studied and when you joined INEOS?
Yeah, so I'm a little bit different, whereas I actually joined INEOS in 2012 through a programme, Engineers of the Future. So INEOS actually sponsored me through my university period at Heriot-Watt University to gain my master's in electronic and electrical engineering. So I've actually been there for 10 years now.
Fantastic. And we're going to hear all about your journey as well in a few minutes. But yeah, I'm going to pass over to Jess, and she's going to find out a little bit more from all of our graduates.
Perfect. So Yuri, I'm going to come to you first. So don't mute yourself just yet. I'll ask you the question because you'll probably just hear me repeat myself. So I'll come to you first. So if you could just tell us a bit about your current role at INEOS, what's the kind of day-to-day like, and if you could tell us a bit about the business that you work for at the moment. So coming to you first, Yuri. It seems so there's a bit of a lag.
Real lag.
It takes about a good 10 seconds before it takes about a good 10 seconds before I hear it. So give me some slack when I answer late. But no, I now work in Runcorn, which is pretty close to Liverpool. And I work as a business intelligence analyst for Innovin. So I work for the same kind of part of Innovin or INEOS as Sam does. So they're a chlor-alkali producer, making, for example, PVC, which is then used in a whole bunch of applications from construction, window profiling, cables, pipes, basically nearly everything. And my day-to-day is, well, at the moment I work on quite a strategic level. So I'm basically preparing information packs regarding future mergers and acquisition opportunities in Southeast Asia. That's what I'm doing at the moment.
Do I dare ask a question? Brilliant, that's good, Yuri.
Do I dare ask a question?
It takes a while. It takes a while.
Brilliant.
Okay, we'll move on to Sam next. So Sam, same kind of question, if that's okay. If you could just tell us a bit about your current role and the business that you work for at the moment.
So as Yuri said, I'm with Innovin. I'm based in London, so same company, but we have bases in different places. And my role is a product manager. So it's more on the commercial side of things. And what I'm doing is I'm buying and selling intermediate material to help us produce PVC. So when we have too much in our system, or we don't want to produce as much PVC, we have these spare intermediates, and I'll go out to the market and speak to traders or other suppliers and try and sell that material. And when we want to produce more PVC, when the market's looking good and people are demanding more, I go out to traders and suppliers and say, do you have any spare material? Can I buy 5,000 tons from your plant in Asia, or do you have any spare stuff in the US that we can ship over? So it's quite an interesting role. I enjoy it, and there's good cross-functional kind of collaboration, always speaking to the shipping team, the planners, the people on the site to make sure they have the space in their tanks to receive the material, the PVC team to work out what pricing we need to settle at. So it's a really enjoyable role and a big learning curve from my previous role, but really enjoying it.
So Sam, a couple of questions there. PVC, what does that actually officially stand for, PVC?
So it's polyvinyl chloride.
Thought so. So when you said it arrives in tanks, is it like a liquid format that you would then receive it in?
The intermediates, yeah, one of them, ethylene dichloride, that's a liquid, and that gets shipped on vessels and is easier to ship around.
Okay.
And there's also VCM is the next step, vinyl chloride monomer. So that's the precursor to PVC. And that's actually a gas which is quite horrible and toxic.
Right.
But at the same time, we can ship that around safely in specially designed vessels. But there's less of them in the world, so it's a little bit more difficult to move that around. So we tend to do ethylene dichloride.
So when you identify that, okay, you know that there's a need for it, and you've found someone that's got what you need, do you then also manage the logistics of getting it where it needs to go, or is that passed to a different team, Sam?
So it tends to be passed to a different team, the logistics. So we can buy it, and the trader will provide the vessel, and it will arrive at our site, and we don't have to worry about any of the boats or the shipping. Whereas we have an in-house shipping team that I'll collaborate with and say, there's a parcel that we could pick up from North America. They want to load between these dates. Can you find a vessel in the Gulf Coast that can sail to Europe in this time frame? Yeah.
I can imagine there's numerous pressures there, from you've got, trying to organize, the team, an external team, and then external pressures on top of that. I can imagine it's quite demanding, Sam. Do you feel that you get quite a bit of pressure, and do you get a lot of support? How does that kind of work?
Yeah, it can get pretty tense at times. I mean, if a boat is delayed or you don't have enough material, that would lead to you shutting down your plant. And if you had to do that, for every day you're shut down, it's millions and millions of pounds that you're going to be losing. So there's a lot of pressure on that side, but there's good support there. The planning team work very closely with you to try and spot any of these pinch points where you might be running out of material. And then you maintain all your relationships in the market to try and make sure you're agile when you need to be, and you can speak to people in Europe, other producers in Europe, and if you have good relationships, maybe you can come to an agreement and they can help, and it's a shorter sail time, and you can solve the problem. So a lot of it is problem solving, and I quite enjoy the kind of high pace of it when it's getting a bit risky. But we always try to minimise the risk, and then there's sometimes if things are slowing down a bit where it's a little bit quieter, and you can focus on the more strategic, longer term project work.
That's quite exciting, I guess. Like you're saying, I bet it's in some situation you're what's the word? Adrenaline. That's the word I'm trying to say. It's pumping. You've got to get stuff delivered on time. So I can imagine that's really quite exciting. So thanks, Sam. So next, I'm going to come to Camilla. So same question. If you could just tell us a bit more about your current role and the businesses as well that you work for.
Yeah, no problem. So I joined recently, just 3 weeks ago, INEOS Energy Trading, which is a very new business of INEOS. It was just created at the end of 2017. And it's obviously more of a utility business rather than a chemical producing business. So that's very different from what I did before. And the core activity of the business is pretty much to market and trade most of the natural gas production that INEOS has in the North Sea, but also trading and supplying energy to our own sites across Europe. So whether it's liquid natural gas or power and all sorts of energy material, but also trading to make opportunities of market situations. And I've joined in the business development team. So my job description is contracts negotiator. So I will be negotiating infrastructure contracts for European trading. So you kind of need a construct of contract work in place with different counterparties for the actual traders who then look at the market and buy every day or sell every day to be able to do that with each counterparty. So it's more the strategic, let's say, trading infrastructure job, but also being involved in different projects for the energy future of INEOS. So looking into bio natural gas, into bringing liquefied natural gas from the US to Europe in order to secure our supply position and make the most of the current markets, which are extremely interesting and evolving.
Absolutely. So Camilla, it's quite an exciting time. And I keep saying this to a lot of graduates, you know, when I'm speaking to them, and, you know, they're considering the different industries. You know, a lot of industries now are at kind of the forefront of change, aren't they now? You know, a lot of change is coming. So it must be really quite exciting for you to start to think about the future. And I know, Jensen, you're going to talk about this a little bit, maybe a little bit later on, but say, you know, you've got pressure on, you know, to be carbon neutral and things like this. And what's kind of that kind of pressure like for you, and, you know, are you excited about where INEOS is taking it?
Yeah, I mean, I was really happy to come to London, to the strategic headquarters, into a quite new business, but that is also expanding. Like a year ago, the team was only 10 people, and now we are 40 and still recruiting. Yeah. So lots and lots of functionalities coming on, lots of different projects. You actually take the time and the capacity on to bring all these to talk about and think about all these changes, and make the most of it for us as a business, because I think the worst you can do at the moment is being late on something. So and since, as Caroline said, we're quite flat in structure and quite rather about doing than talking about things, things get moving really quickly, and that is very exciting.
Yeah, that's good. It very much feels like, from the times I've spoken to INEOS and the webinars like this, you're very proactive rather than reactive. I remember when, you know,
that's all I guess. Yeah,
it's really, really good. It's impressive. So Jensen, I'll come to you. Same question again, if that's okay. A bit about your role, what life has been like for you in the area of the business you work in.
Yeah, so I am now in the position of instrument electrical asset engineer. So basically we need to maintain all of the electrical and instrumentation equipment throughout the power station and utilities asset within the Grangemouth site. So day-to-day things, it's quite interesting because it's quite a historic asset. It's about 50 to 60 years old. But with that brings a lot of sort of firefighting and things like that, and reacting to failures and problem solving. So that's been very, very sort of exciting as well, sort of from day one, given that sort of responsibility to go and own that is great. Also knowing that there is also the funding and investment for a new energy project, which is also sort of currently taking place as well. So knowing that that's coming in the future as well keeps it going, and it will be a different challenge to having a nice shiny new plant rather than one that's a little bit older and causes its own problems. So no, it's really good sort of day-to-day issues with creating procedures, calibration checks and things like that for the guys to follow, but also getting that sort of hands-on involvement where if there is a failure and things like that, we go down onto site as well and get a bit more hands-on with the guys to get that understanding. So that can just vary sort of with every day as it comes and stuff like that, working towards different standards, getting responsibility such as look after a lot of the ASIS area checks, so need to be as a responsible person now actually for the area. So yeah, like I say, a lot of responsibility, but great for sort of moving towards your chartership and things like that as well, and just becoming a sort of better rounded engineer as a whole. So yeah, really good.
I'm glad you dropped.
Sorry.
Go on, Seth.
Sorry, just as you were talking, I was just thinking that quite a lot of our audience might not understand actually what happens at Grangemouth as a site. Can you give us the audience an overview of what happens there?
Yeah, so I work in the power station and utilities area. So we generate electricity and we can feed that back into the grid as well. Power station utilities area also creates steam and cooling water for the different assets on site as well. So the ethylene cracker, KG, is probably what we're best known for to create that product there. So yeah.
So yeah, a few different areas that an engineer could get involved in.
Yeah, absolutely. There's different assets there as well. It's got polymers asset, which ties in with a couple of other guys here through the polymers industry as well. And then hydrocarbons, jetties area, we've just invested in a new ethane tank as well within the last couple of years, moving towards that sort of thing. So a lot of investment recently, and doesn't seem to be slowing down either. So it's good to know. Yeah,
fantastic.
Yeah, really good. Jensen, you touched upon chartership there, and just with you doing more the engineering side of things, it'd be quite interesting for you just to elaborate on that slightly in terms of how are INEOS helping you to become chartered?
Yeah, no problem. So from when we started the graduate programme, you get given a buddy. So it's a buddy system who that's probably a similar disciplined engineer who's maybe been on site for a number of years to help you as a sort of contact in case you've got any questions that maybe you're not as comfortable putting towards other people that you work with. So there's always that person that you can sort of lean on for a little bit more of advice. There's also a instrument electrical, so the IET sort of accredited scheme that INEOS have got as well. I know that's from speaking from personal experience. I know that that's accredited, and I would presume that there's also a mechanical and a chemical one as well that'll have similar routines. So I'm actually the chair for that from the graduates' point of view. So we have meetings every quarter with all of the IE grads, basically catch up and speak about any recent experience that we've had on site, what we've been working on, any interesting training courses that we've been on or are coming up. And with the programme, there's also a sort of set competency matrix that you get given from INEOS, which has got sort of training courses and experience and things like that you can enrol on, and INEOS put you through that as well. So as long as they're available, then you get put through that through the INEOS's budget and stuff like that. So you work your way through that, and then at the end of the sort of 4 or 5 years, you can apply for being chartered. And I think the one thing from my point of view is I think you just need to be disciplined enough to, because everything's so busy on site and day to day and stuff like that, you need to be disciplined enough to set your own time aside to actually allow you to move forward with your chartership application and things like that. That's something that I kind of got a little bit bogged down in, whereas I was getting more involved in the day to day because I really enjoy it and stuff like that. I don't want to sort of miss out. But looking back, I'd probably wish that I had sort of kept maybe an hour or two a week in the afternoon sort of free, just to keep going through it right from the start, because it would have been a lot easier doing it that way.
Jensen, it's
advice.
Nice you've been so honest. That is really good advice, because anyone who again listening, thinking of applying to INEOS in the future, hopefully will remember that and think, I'll set that time aside so I don't miss out. So well done.
It's great. They're more than willing to allow that to happen as well. So all the management's sort of understanding, and they're looking to get you towards that as well. So there's no issues from that side of things.
Absolutely. Brilliant. Thanks, Jensen. So, Yuri, I'm not going to ignore you on this one, but I am a bit, not because of the lag, but just because I know you haven't been here very long. So I'm going to just kind of miss you out of this question for now, but I'm going to come to Sam, if it's okay. And could you just tell us a bit about the rotational projects you've been involved in so far? And tell us a bit more about it.
Sure. So on the commercial scheme, it's 5 years. And the normal rotations are 2 years, then a rotation, another 2 years, and then a final 1 year, which can either be kind of the role you take on full-time into the job, or in that year, I think is a good stepping point to reach out to your network you developed and to find something that really interests you. If you really love procurement, going back to the network you've built and saying, is there any projects going on or any procurement roles coming up in any of these businesses, or can you help with the sort of the mentors that you might have met along your career progression through INEOS.
I don't know if you're frozen. Sammy,
my first was in Germany, and that was global strategy. And pardon?
No, sorry, I thought you froze, but you were here. You're back.
You froze briefly, but you're back.
My first role was in Germany with our polystyrene business, Styrolution, and that was in global strategy and sustainability. And then after 2 years there, I moved to London for Innovin, and that was product management. So one role was very much kind of longer term strategy based, a lot of market research and project management on some of our sustainability work going on, and help and work around our carbon footprinting and our net zero roadmaps. And now my role is more commercial on the day-to-day basis, and then certain strategic projects going on kind of in the background. But it's a nice mix, and certainly when I spoke to HR on kind of what I've developed in my first rotation, they were very willing to listen and say, okay, you've done a very strategic role here. And I said, I want something more commercial, kind of on the day-to-day running of the business. And they found a role that fitted very well in London for me.
That's amazing. Sam, I've got so many questions I want to ask you. So in terms of, you know, where you want to go next, as you said, you've got that support there to make sure you are being varied. But could you, because INEOS do so many amazing things, from, like, say, from the sports element right through to, you know, hand gels, you know, so, and everything in between. So where could you kind of see it going? Can you say, right, I really want to do something in the Formula One side, or I really want to do something in a completely different area? How open is it, or do you need to stay within a certain group, really?
I think in general, maybe Caroline's best to answer this, but in general, it tends to be the core businesses, the kind of petrochemical businesses that the rotations go through, as they have more traditionally taken the grads and have roles that fit very well for the graduates, because there's that rotation of new graduates arriving, and a first rotation graduate would fill that role really well, and then you want to fill it with another new graduate and move that first rotation graduate onto a bigger role as they've got more experience in the business. But that's not to say, I mean, in the future, as some of the new ventures expand and get bigger, like INEOS Automotive or Hygienics or something like that, there might not be roles coming available, or that's what I've heard. I don't know if Caroline can confirm.
Yeah, I think you're spot on, Sam. I think what we do tend to do, Jessica and Sophie, is really bring our graduates into the core of the business, that all of our graduates on the call have done, because we are looking for our leaders of the future as well, and they need to really understand the business. Exactly as Sam said, you don't quite know what we're buying next, and it's certainly really awesome. We get to know them. You know, automotive is an obvious one. It's a relatively new business, so we tend to like the business to settle a little bit before putting a graduate there. But who knows? Just who knows? But I think that's the exciting part about INEOS. You don't quite know where we're going next.
Where you could end up.
And from the sounds of it as well, listening to Sam, you know, that it's a very two-way conversation. So if a student came to you and said, actually, I see an opportunity for me to get X experience in one of the newer business areas, that would be a conversation that would be had, and nothing would be kind of discounted, really, would it, Caroline, from the sounds of things? Yeah,
absolutely. You know, and as Sam said, he did his first rotation, identified it was more strategic, wanted an operational role. So we're very mindful from a HR perspective of what we believe is the right career path to get our graduates to get great exposure, but they're in the business. So it is very two-way. Clearly, as I said earlier, we do put our graduates in proper jobs from day one, so we don't magic jobs out of nowhere.
Exactly.
So jobs have to be there as well.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sam, and then one more question I've got for you. So it seems as though there's, you know, you've had quite a variation of kind of projects that you've been working on so far. Have you been quite nervous going into the next project? It seems as though there's a lot of responsibility, as we've kind of touched upon. You know, there's quite a bit of pressure from the responsibility. Have you kind of gone into it and thinking, oh gosh, I'm a bit nervous, how am I going to do it? And then kind of look back and think, oh, I can do it. And, you know, have you got any kind of stories like that?
Yeah, I think certainly taking on those first projects was a bit nerve-wracking, but there's certainly the support in place. I've had very supportive, good bosses. I've had some very good mentors who have been very kind of up to date on understanding the structures of the company and who's best to get input from on certain things. If you're looking to get input from someone in a certain department, who should I speak to? Who's going to be the person who could push that from this side? So a lot of really helpful feedback from those superiors or your mentors. And then at the same time, there's lots of training in place as well. Every year, there's a certain number of trainings they want us to tick off. A little bit of a disruption during COVID because couldn't do any of them in person. And some of them moved online. But certain trainings like presentation skills, time management, project management, all those sort of things are available. can certainly help. And if you feel that you're lacking some of those skills, bosses are normally very, very okay with you kind of taking the time to go and take that training if you can find something available, and they understand about the development of the graduate scheme.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's a really interesting point, Sam. Some of those courses that you just kind of touched upon, you know, they're not necessarily this is how you do your job day to day, but they have those kind of skills that actually, you know, working in this sort of environment, you very much need to have time management, project management, these types of things that, you know, they're skills that you probably wouldn't have picked up necessarily, you know, obviously elements of it during your university career, but actually when you join a business, those kind of soft skills and competencies are more difficult to master sometimes, aren't they, than the technical elements?
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's a good aspect of kind of once you've done the work, the feedback from the bosses I've had has been positive. We've sat down and sort of said, oh, how did you think that project went? What could have been improved? Where can you develop? Where do you need a bit more training? So they're very invested in your development and more than willing to help.
Brilliant. Sorry, Jess, off you go.
No, it's okay. Are we okay for time? Do you want to jump to...
No, yeah. So, let's have be great to hear a bit more about Camilla and Jensen's journey as well.
Brilliant. So Camilla, same kind of question. If you could tell us a bit about kind of the projects and the rotations that you've had and been kind of experiencing so far.
Yeah, no problem. So as I said, I joined in 2018 for a commodities business in Germany, which is INEOS Phenol. So the business was quite small in terms of people, but very large volumes, and only 3 products. So really not that complex from a product structure. That was a great point to start. I started in a very operational role in customer service logistics for first part, and then raw material procurement, where I worked as a barge operator. So every parts and bits of bringing the material to the site, producing, and then afterwards selling to the customers, more on the operational level, but also logistics projects, especially in digitalization, using modern technology to improve our efficiency. For example, we equipped all our rail cars with GPS and temperature tracker to be more energy efficient and also have a higher customer service. At the end, also because the products that we were handling were highly poisonous, so you actually want to know where your rail cars are and not having them stuck somewhere in a station or something, because it does happen that you actually lose rail cars. You wouldn't believe it, but it does. So that was for me quite a comfortable environment, because it was in Germany, me being German, so that was an easy start. Then in 2020, I moved to the south of France, to La Vera, which is 40 kilometers west to Marseille. It's one of our largest production sites, also with a refinery and a cracker. And I joined the olefins and polymers business of South Europe. And worked for the polymers business, so much more specialties. We have polymers, obviously plastic pallets that we delivered to lots of converters, and worked a lot with brand owners, so much more down the stream, much more consumer oriented, lots of sustainability projects, of course, because plastic is the mean guy, and we talk about recycling a lot, circular economy, everything that is product design. For example, I don't know if you've seen, Coca-Cola is currently advertising that they keep their lids or the caps to the bottles actually attached. So maybe some of you have even already bought bottles where the cap stays attached. And that is actually one of the developments where INEOS is very advanced in providing polymer grades that have the capability to produce these kind of lids. This is actually a European directive coming into action in 2024, that to all bottles, the lids need to stay attached, because 25% of the marine litter are actually bottle caps or Tetra Pak.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And so all these kind of topics, trying to develop more sustainable plastics. It was rather a business development role that I had within the team, doing business analytics, but also following up lots of sustainability projects. Right. And now, since 3 weeks, I'm in London with energy trading. So I've seen 3 different, very different businesses, and also very different roles, and gradually ramping up responsibilities and exposure. So
Yeah, absolutely. Camilla, if you don't mind me asking, in terms of, you said the locations that you've been in so far, and, we always say to students, don't we, Soph, that, please do be flexible on location if you can. The more open you are, the more opportunity that you're going to come across. So how has that been for you, in terms of, relocating, a couple of weeks in London now? How are you finding it? And, what's, again, the support that you get from INEOS when you do relocate?
Yeah, I mean, it's not always easy, especially when you're in your working life, because I also moved around a lot as a student doing Erasmus and these kind of things.
Yeah.
And you're always in a group of or same-minded people. So it's much easier to meet people when you move during your university studies than it is when you do in your young professional life, because you don't find as many people in the same situation.
Yeah.
But I think, in the context of INEOS, it's great because you usually have other graduates at the sites where you move. You have the person you replace, the person that is replacing you coming in. Lots of, the people are used to having people move around. So you're very well welcomed. Everyone is very helpful also to master the administrative task, because it is, I think you need a study on its own to understand administrative systems in different countries. I mean, now I needed a visa to come to the UK. Before, you wouldn't imagine that moving from Germany to France was even more complicated than moving from France to the UK. So it's not always easy, and it's a lot of things to work for and around. But HR has always been very supportive, very quick, reactive on all the issues we are facing, because obviously every graduate's journey is very unique. And but then on the other hand, you always have kind of the same problems as well. The community of grads and HR is very great
that's good. At least overall it's positive.
And then obviously we also get lots of support on the actual physical move to arrive in a country, find a place, move furniture or just luggage around, and
Brilliant. Thank you, Camilla. I think it's another one of those things that, again, is really quite unique to the INEOS graduate scheme, is the amount that you get, not to just move around the business. Obviously, a lot of graduate schemes are rotational. You get to experience different areas, but actually being able to move around Europe and experience, different locations and different countries is, it's a really great experience. And like you said, just some of the things that you've mentioned there, Camilla, about some of the challenges that you kind of come across outside of work, but by moving and relocating is also really character building and gives you some great life experience. So that's brilliant. Jensen, we're going to come back to you in a minute to find out a little bit more about, one of the key parts of the INEOS graduate scheme that I'm really excited to hear about in a bit more detail. But Yuri, I just want to come back to you. I'm going to ask the question because obviously we're worried about the lag.
I fixed the lag.
Oh, you fixed the lag. Well done, you. Because obviously we've heard about everyone's journey so far, and you're on the other side of the coin here. So you've just started. You've been there 6 weeks. What's the rest of the graduate scheme looking like for you? Have you got any particular areas that you want to move to next, or what are you thinking about your journey?
Well, at the moment, I'm just trying to understand what I'm supposed to do, my job, trying to comprehend that because it's quite complicated. I think in about 2 years I will go on the next rotation. But I'm not sure where. I would have a preference for Cologne, for example, for Germany, because I speak some German. So I think that would be easier to move to. So, but other than that, there isn't really a specific country or group I want to move to. I joined this because I was just looking to be flexible, basically.
And I think that's a great attitude to have. And, it's obviously something that INEOS really value in people that join their graduate schemes, the flexibility about where you want to go. And I suppose the great thing as well, and, what we heard from Sam and Caroline, is that as you move through this particular rotation, you might have lots of different thoughts come in, and then in 2 years' time, you might be thinking of something completely different. But that's a conversation that you can have, can't you? And decide where you want to go after that point. So, I know you're very, very fresh, so I'm probably asking you questions that you can't really answer yet. But it's great to, to hear you, to have you on the webinar, because I know we're going to come back and talk a bit more about sort of hints and tips, which I think will be really valuable from someone so fresh to it. But now I'm going to jump over to you, Jensen, because we're going to talk about the Namibian challenge, which is one of those things that completely unique. So can you just tell us what is the Namibian Challenge, and when and why do you get involved in it?
Yeah, so I was there in April this year. So we were away for 5 days to run, cycle, and hike across Namibia. So that was including 2 half marathons, a full marathon, hiking up the biggest mountain in Namibia, and cycling over 250 kilometres.
Wow.
Supposed to be part of the 3rd year graduate sort of programme. However, it's delayed through COVID and things like that as well. So that also added another sort of challenge as well, to sort of keep yourself motivated through that. But the support that was on hand and the team that was set up and stuff like that was absolutely superb. So that definitely helped. But in the year sort of leading up to the challenge, we were taken across to Lanzarote for some better weather, basically, rather than that in Scotland, to train and get used to the elements that would be comparable in Namibia as such. So first class again, sort of set up and stuff like that, and the support and meeting. That was the first time we were actually meeting all of the other grads that were going to be doing Namibia Challenge with us. So that actually helped to sort of ease the nerves as well, because you knew you weren't just doing it alone, rather than all of the sort of virtual events that had been forced upon us through COVID. Then later on, a few months before travelling across to Namibia, we were actually taken across to Paris to run the Paris Marathon again. So that was absolutely amazing. And again, the first time sort of being part of a sort of professional sort of event as such. So it was amazing just to see the difference that actually done in your capabilities, and the adrenaline and stuff like that was going. So once you'd done that, that was us all set to go. And it was basically one of the best things and also one of the worst things that I've ever done in my life at the same time. So I think we'd said that it was great just being there with obviously close friends that I work with here in Grangemouth, but also people that then became close friends after the week that we had together, and sharing memories and stuff like that we'll probably never ever forget, and some of the nicest sort of landscape that we've ever seen, stars, sunsets and stuff like that. And it was just tremendous. A lot of pain and a lot of things like that. So but it was more again just to prove sort of mentally that you can sort of do anything that you want, as long as you put your mind to it. So it was amazing. It was one of the best things we'll ever do. And then rewarded in the end after completing it with a 2-day sort of safari and a good celebration as well. So no, it was brilliant, absolutely amazing, and would recommend anybody who is successful in the graduate programme to definitely do it, because you'll regret it if you don't.
Brilliant. Thank you, Jensen. I mean, it's one of those things that when you hear about it, and there's an incredible video on the Gradcracker Company Hub about the Namibian Challenge as well, which, make sure you go and check out after the webinar to find out even more about it. But the experience itself, and all completely funded by INEOS, they give you such a great preparation that you've touched upon a couple of things there, Jensen. But Sam, you are going to be doing the Namibian Challenge next year. So can you tell us a little bit more about the build up to the challenge and the sort of training that you go through to prepare to go out?
Sure. So, yeah, about a year ahead of time on our year 3 graduate event, they bring us all together from the US, from Europe, all the grads kind of meet each other. And it's a great opportunity to kind of kick that event off. So I had a whole introduction to it. And also during that week, had a kind of a health checkup where if you wanted to, you could get blood tests done and see your overall health, which I found very interesting. Pretty much everyone in the UK is vitamin D deficient. There's not enough sun around. But yeah, that was really interesting, and you wouldn't get that just in your normal everyday life. And then from there, loads of support on kind of milestones to reach. So we had the Antwerp Half Marathon a few weeks ago. And then in March, I believe, we have the Barcelona Marathon. And in December, we have this Lanzarote trip. And through that time, there's lots of support from the sports department. If you're struggling on ideas for training or need a plan or anything like that, there's always the resources in place, as well as the graduates have already done it. You can speak to, and they're very, very encouraging, and have set up kind of running clubs to get us out weekly. We have to do our own training on top, but to keep us motivated, big group runs from the office and that sort of thing.
So what would happen if you wasn't a runner? So say, for example, you haven't run, you want to do it, you know, you're all up for it, but do you have to be kind of generally quite fit, already enthusiastic about running and everything else, or can you? No,
I think anyone can do it, really. You have plenty of time to train for it. You know it's coming, kind of 3.5, 4 years ahead of time. So if it's something you're really set at, I think that's part of the idea behind it as well. If you want to do something, as long as you take it in little steps, you build up to it, anyone can do it. And always the team behind it are very vocal on that. There's physio and doctor support, and unless you've got some very worrying health condition, their belief is that they can support you, and if you take it slowly and build up slowly over time, there's no reason that everyone on the graduate scheme couldn't do it. And it sounds, I think, like it's definitely worth it.
And I think it's one of those things. It's the mentality of INEOS, this, isn't it? It's, you know, it's all about, you know, you can achieve anything that you put your mind to, whether it's a graduate or as a business. And I think that really does come across as part of the challenge. And, you know, it's something that, you know, probably a lot of people watching will be thinking, oh, I don't think I could ever do that. But, you know, the amount of support that you get through the business and the experience that you get through it just sounds like an amazing opportunity. So like I said, make sure you head to the Gradcracker Company Hub after the webinar to find out even more about the challenge and the sort of things that you do as part of it. Before we kind of move on to just kind of finishing off the webinar with recruitment tips and stuff like that, I just want to kind of touch upon one of the things that I know is also really, really key to INEOS. Obviously, working in the industry that INEOS does, sustainability is incredibly important. So could you quickly, Sam, give us, you know, kind of an overview of some of the key initiatives that you have in this area?
So sustainability is different across all the businesses, but every single business has its net zero roadmap. So that's how we're going to reach net zero by 2050. And depending on the businesses, it's all very different. But an incredibly interesting time for the industry. Huge amounts of green electricity are going to be needed as we green all of our assets. Hydrogen, rather than burning gas in our furnaces, is another big step that lots of our processes are taking. There needs to be massive expansions in hydrogen production, which INEOS are very closely linked to, as that's one of the businesses that produces a lot of hydrogen already. And then there's loads of work going on in other areas around making our products more sustainable. So either bio-attributed products and the marketing and scaling of those, or our recycling work. So one of my previous roles back in Germany was project managing a chemical recycling project, which was sponsored by the EU. And working to just prove the concept that we could take old plastic that's already been used, move it back into the system, use this chemical recycling process, and then build the same material again from the chemical building blocks, and put value back into the supply chain. And it's scary, the amount of waste that is wasted each year and the amount of value that could be caught from that if we put better collection and sorting in place to try and capture the valuable feedstocks.
Brilliant. Thank you, Sam. I mean, we could talk about sustainability all day and the amazing things that INEOS do. But like I said, and again, on the Gradcracker Company Hub, we have a really comprehensive area about all of the initiatives that INEOS are involved in to make sure the business is as sustainable as possible. But just to kind of come back to you, Caroline, to find out more about, you know, we've heard about some of the amazing things that graduates can get involved in as part of the graduate schemes now, but can we kind of go right back to the beginning and find out, you know, what is the recruitment process? And I know one of the things that INEOS are really proud of and is a really positive part is how personal your approach is to recruitment as well.
Yes, Sophie, of course, that is the feedback we do get, and I know Yuri is going to talk through firsthand in terms of his experience. I think from my perspective, I'll talk through the application process, but beforehand, some general advice I'd say, to anyone thinking about applying for a graduate program, just be really, really clear on what you're applying for and why. And I think the only way you're going to really get to the bottom of that is doing your research, speaking to companies. But it is a huge decision as you come to the end of university and it's your first proper job outside. I think just be super, super clear on why you're looking to apply for particular roles. And second advice, I would say research the company and any opportunities. These webinars are fantastic to hear from lots of different people within the organisation. But as you go through the process, what we do is you'll speak to everyone from someone in the HR team, you'll meet through dinners at assessment centres, some of the current graduates, all the way through to our board members who will sign off on your recruitment as well. So I think getting the opportunity to speak to as many people across the business would be my second piece of general advice for everyone. In terms of our process, we tend to move fairly quickly, I would say, Sophie, in terms of application to offer. So we're now in October. The commercial scheme is live on the website at the moment, on the Gradcracker website, and we're reviewing applications and at the first stage of initial telephone interviews, essentially, or Teams interviews in this new world we're in now. We just kind of skipping forward, we look to make offers by December, so we do move quite quickly. So after the initial Teams interview, we do what we call pre-screening questions, and from that we are asking you to explain what you know about INEOS and why you're applying for the role, and a couple of other questions. I won't give them away because I'll be told off. We're just trying to understand, what is your interest in applying for us. What we don't like is spelling mistakes. We talk about rigor a lot at INEOS, so really spend the time. Don't just scattergun applications, because we will be able to spot that. Spelling mistakes are, for me personally, I'm not a fan of. So just take the time and put your application through. So then after that, we would invite you, if you're successful, to an assessment centre, and that is very varied. So a HR interview, so competency-based questions generally. Sophie, we have commercial questions. This is about the commercial programme now. So 2 commercial interviews generally. You will have prepared a presentation for us and you'll deliver that as part of this stage. And you'll do a group exercise as well. So quite an intense assessment centre. Then for candidates that we are very, very keen on, who have kind of got through to what we would call the final stage interview, that will be either in London or Switzerland. And that would be interviews with board members. So as I said, we do, we are kind of very invested in our graduates, and across businesses, the board members would meet you from a dinner the night before all the way through to the final interview stage. So that is the process. We don't like pre-recorded videos. We want to find out about you, who you are, why you're applying to us. So it's all about the person and the potential really from our side. So we have, as the graduates are taught through, various corporate events like year 1, year 3, and we develop you as a person in INEOS from a leadership perspective and a soft skills perspective. So we are looking for you, and we really want to get to know you through the process. So I think that's part of the reason why people do find it so personal, because it's all about who you are and, are you a good match for INEOS as well.
It's brilliant. That's brilliant, Carl. And you really do invest a lot of time, not just from HR's point of view, but like all the different elements and different people that get involved in the recruitment process. It really does come across that how much you value that the graduates that come into the business, from the minute they kind of almost step through the door for that first interview, and then all the way, as we've heard, throughout the graduate scheme. So thank you so much for that kind of oversight of the scheme of the recruitment process itself. Yuri, I'm going to pop back to you just to kind of, because obviously you've really recently come through the recruitment process. So can you give us some words of wisdom to our audience?
All right, some words. I'm not sure how much I can tell. So if I tell too much, just cut me off. The first tip I would give, you talk to quite a lot of high level people, but they're really friendly and they just really want to get to know you. So just be relaxed, be yourself. Secondly, there are no wrong answers necessarily, as long as you can back it up. And don't be too headstrong in your arguments. If someone else then proposes a new argument, say that that's a good argument and that changed your mind, for example. If you're applying for the commercial scheme, it might be useful to get a bit of basic information regarding commercial concepts. So I'm talking EBITDA, cash flows, financial statements, that kind of stuff. Just a basic understanding, but there will be some kind of questions on it, of course. And lastly, I would say there might be an exercise where you have to, under quite some time pressure, you have to prepare something. Don't read the whole text, read the questions first, and then scan for the answers.
Okay, I feel like we've got a bit of an insider
Yeah,
tip there. Caroline's thinking, was he allowed to say that?
Not sure.
No, but that's great. Thank you, Yuri. That's a really nice little concise bit of guidance to finish off there. So thank you so much for that. Going to really quickly finish with a couple of quick fire rounds. Just asking a couple of quick questions. Jess, over to you for our quick fire rounds.
Good. I'm so glad I said this because I was like, I just want to at least get some of them in because they're so interesting. Okay, so we'll go straight into the fun fact. So if everyone could tell us a fun fact about INEOS, and Yuri, I'll come to you first.
All right. So the idea of the Grenadier, the car, was born in a pub in London. And I think 1 or 2 weeks ago, INEOS has bought that pub now. So it's part of INEOS. So if you really want to support INEOS, you can go to London and get a pint there.
That's fantastic.
I absolutely love that. And Caroline, because that's where they came up with the idea, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So the concept of the Grenadier car was formed over a pint in the Grenadier pub just around the corner from our office here in Knightsbridge. And now we've got the INEOS Grenadier cycling team as well. So it's very exciting for us. First car rolled off the production line this week.
Sorry, Caroline, so is the pub called the Grenadier then?
Yes. So the pub's always been called the Grenadier. Yes, quite. Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Love it. And I think that is just how fun it proves. You know, everything we discussed about INEOS, I think that just kind of sums it up. You think, why not? That open, that creative. I just think it's wonderful. Next, Sam, I'll come to you. Fun fact, if that's okay.
Innovin, the company I work at, their site in Runcorn at any one time consumes about 1% of the UK's power.
There you are. That's pretty impressive. Wow.
Just tells you how big it is, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think in the past, I used to get phone calls from the government saying, we're going to have to slow you down or you're going to have to consume more energy because of supply demand. It's quite interesting.
Wow. Camilla, I'll come to you. Fun fact, please.
Yeah, I think one interesting fact is that all our sites or offices have or an own gym or access to a gym very nearby, and it's free for us to go. It's very encouraged to do exercise during lunch break, after work, before work, whenever you want, because our owner or our group of owners and the philosophy believe that you're much more productive when you're healthy and fit. And I've just moved here and used the gym quite a lot already, and it's great because everyone is just running around in their sports gear, and you meet board members in the spinning class or talk to your HR responsible during a Pilates class, and great for Namibia preparation as well.
Yeah,
the person there can help you get ready.
Perfect. Well done, Camilla. And Jensen, come to you.
Yeah, I'd probably say so INEOS Greensmith targeting net zero by 2045, and they've already reduced their net CO2 emissions by 37% from acquiring the site back in 2005.
Very impressive.
Fantastic.
Going in the right direction, which is good. And then Caroline, last but not least, if you could tell us your fun fact.
Yeah, of course. INEOS, as well as a number of different charitable interests. We also have, we're the sole funders for a charity called the Daily Mile, and it's all about getting children globally into running 15 minutes a day, essentially. So global initiative. We've got a team based here in London, and we're kind of grassroots charity all focused on fitness.
It's good. That mindset, that lifestyle, all kind of comes together to ultimately get, you guys as the best as you can be. And I just think it's wonderful. So well done. It's exciting.
Thank you so much for giving us such a brilliant insight today into what life is like at INEOS. I feel like we've only just scratched the surface though.
Yeah.
There's so many different areas that obviously graduates can get involved in, but it's been really great hearing all of your journeys, obviously all of which have been really quite different. So hopefully that'll give our audience a good insight to the possibilities at INEOS. So the recording of this webinar will be available for you to watch tomorrow on the INEOS Company Hub and on the Gradcracker Career Centre. And then what we'll also do is break this up into kind of key highlights on different topics for everybody to watch as well. Remember, our employers love it when you tell them that you've watched one of these webinars, as they know that means that you've had a really good understanding of their company, and it shows you have a real interest in working for them. And I know Caroline touched upon that just a few minutes ago as well. So make sure following the webinar, you go and get your applications in for INEOS. Like I said, the commercial graduate scheme is live right now, with the engineering schemes going live in the next week. So let them know you were here when you put those applications in. So next week, Carla and Jessica will be joined by Centrica. So make sure you register your interest on Gradcracker for this on the Gradcracker Career Centre. Thank you once again to INEOS for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. And yeah, we'll see you next week.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone. See you later. Bye-bye.